brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
Imperatriz, 3/4 of a length in front. The Kiwi and Opie. It's Imperatriz wins it from Bella Nipotina.
Here comes the Kiwi filly. Prowess is coming home hard, and Prowess moved up now, takes the lead in the Vinery Stud Stakes, and she's a class act.
What a weekend. The New Zealand stars, both human and equine, were out in full show on Saturday afternoon, and we're going to be reviewing all of that here on Weigh In this morning. Michael Guerin, a weekend to celebrate. We don't have these very often, but this was an absolute standout on all fronts.
First one for 3 years since we had a Group 1 double at Randwick just before COVID hit, actually, right at the back end of February in 2020. Congratulations to everybody involved. It was fun. You were there. Congratulations to the Bosson family, because Opie hasn't had many Group 1 opportunities in Australia the last 3 years. Queen Imperatriz on Friday night, that was just amazing to watch, because who would have thought that we could potentially have mares winning Group 1 sprints in Australia 3 times in 12 months, and then Princess Prowess at Rose Hill, and so exciting not only for what she did, for what it could mean heading forward. So we are going to get to New Zealand racing later on, but with such a magical weekend in Australia, we're going to have a deep dive into what it all means, talk to Roger James, talk to Opie, explain who else is going to Australia, and there's so many parts to this, but I think the key factor is that a difficult time for New Zealand racing. That made people really proud. Like, people would have been puffing their chest out and high-fiving. And I watched the Imperatriz race in a TAB pub tap, and people were yelling. They were yelling for Imperatriz, even if they backed it or not. It was just a wonderful weekend, and we're about to dive into it. Yeah, we most definitely are. It's the 3-year-old crop that just keeps on delivering. Let's relive Prowess's Group 1 Vinery Stud Stakes win.
Infinitive and Cool Dies, they flatten for the run home now, and Soul Choice is the leader, but Pavitra's looming large on the outside and a length away to Prowess. It's Pavitra getting the upper hand from Soul Choice, but here comes the Kiwi filly. Prowess is coming home hard, and Prowess moved up now, takes the lead in the Vinery Stud Stakes, and she's a class act, pulling right away Prowess to win it by 3.5 to Pavitra. Third, anyone's guess, Byron Bill, Parossel wide out, Fireburn the inside. And
she demolished her rivals, did Prowess, and we've got trainer Roger James on the line to have a little chat after the win. And Roger, in the post-race interviews, it was clear to see your emotion and what this meant to you. She really is so special to you and the team, isn't she?
Yeah, good morning, Emily. Morning, Mick. Look, I think for quite some time I've had an inkling that she could well be, as you say, special. And really to confirm that, in my mind, she had to do something like she did on Saturday. And I think it was probably more relief and more confirmation that my thinking was correct.
Roger, straight after the race, you were very adamant that that was it. She was on a flight home, and I noticed that she's already back in New Zealand, isn't she?
She is correct. Yes, she arrived back last night about 8 o'clock at the stables, and she ate nearly all of her feed last night, and is a happy camper this morning by the sound of it.
Roger, congratulations to you and to Robert and to the owners. She was extremely good in the spring, but she was beatable. She hasn't been beatable since 2023 started. Have you noticed improvement in her physically or mentally that has made her into what now is one of the most exciting horses in Australasia?
Yes, she has. She's grown up mentally, and even on this trip, she's just coped and learned how to handle situations just so well. She's the complete base horse now, except that I think she will strengthen markedly with a break. She's a big girl, and she's been running on ability up until now, and I think with that added strength into her physical makeup, she will be the complete package in the spring.
Roger, with the emotion of the win, you were suggesting that she may be potentially the best horse you have trained. Now, you've had some beauties, but Silent Achiever was able to win major weight-for-age serious races. Now you've had a chance to think about it. Do you still think Prowess could potentially be as good as Silent Achiever?
I do think she could potentially be as good as Silent Achiever. I'm very aware that Silent Achiever was doing it in weight for age company, and this filly doing it in exclusive 3-year-old filly company, but she's just a touch more brilliant than Silent Achiever had, and she is still getting there. Yeah, I've got a lot of time for this filly, I think.
Roger, what makes it even...
She's a star in the making, I think.
Yeah, she most definitely is. Roger, what makes it even more satisfying for you, no doubt, is that you selected her at the Karaka sales yourself. She's purchased from Hallmark Stud. You paid about $230,000 for her. What did you identify in her at that early point that made her the horse for you?
Well, to be fair, we were running out of time doing yearling inspections at that time and or that year, and we split up. We normally do things together. We split up and went around the studs, and Robert did the initial look at Hallmark, and he just came back and he said, "I've seen an absolute cracker at Hallmark," and you know, he was 100% right. As soon as we all cracked our eyes on her again, we identified her as one that we needed to buy, and she was just a lovely physical type, hard to fault.
Roger, she may be heading to the paddock, but of course you have Mark Twain heading across to Australia this week, and Kieran McAvoy is on in the Derby. How's Mark Twain's progress been, and is he in fact already in Sydney?
No, I'm waiting here for him. He arrives tomorrow. I hadn't heard Robert as excited about a horse's work as he was when he phoned me on Saturday morning. He said his work was exceptional. He said in his time with me, we've had a number of staying horses, and especially staying 3-year-olds, and he said I hadn't seen one work as well as he worked. He is a little bit one-dimensional in a race, and you know, I think Randwick will really suit him. I'd love to see him. He's always, unfortunately, going to get back in the running. That's his style, and we can't seem to motivate him early, but I'd love to see him able to move whenever he wants to from the 800, and you know, that's what he lacked in the New Zealand Derby. He was hemmed away for a long time. But his sectionals late were exceptional, and I just hope we get the luck we need with him on Saturday.
Roger, just before we let you go, any sort of plans around what the future looks like for Prowess? Could we potentially see her lining up in a Cox Plate?
Look, that's an obvious choice, but there are a lot of choices. There's some 4-year-old races worth extraordinary money. There's a lot on offer, and we are fortunate now. We've got 3 months to sit down and make a plan that hopefully won't overtax her, but gives her every opportunity to add to her record, which is looking pretty good at present.
Roger, a massive congratulations to yourself, the team at home, and of course the connections as well. Wonderful, wonderful weekend and making the Kiwis very proud.
I must say that's been very evident. On Sunday I quietly answered over 100 messages from people and from all walks, and the support that we've had from home has been incredible, as it has been from the Australians. Quite incredible how they have taken her on board for what she did. And this morning I got a message from France, one from England and one from London as well. So we don't realise just how global our industry is.
Unbelievable stuff, wasn't it? And for Rich Hill Stud, I think, and Hallmark Stud, who of course bred Prowess and have the broodmare still, got a full sister, I believe, at foot and is in foal to Prowess as well. And for Rich Hill, their stallion, he has just elevated himself to another level. And for their stallions as a whole, shocking. Tokyo Tycoon representing Satono Aladdin, just unbelievable stuff for them.
We're about to see a horse called Tapple Doodle, who also wins a feature 3-year-old race on the card. Just before we see that, and that'll come after we talk about Imperatriz, just what to make of Prowess, because I'm not sure the local fillies are actually as good as ours. We have Legato and a whole bunch of very good fillies here, but they went 2-4 for the 2,000 metres, but she came home 2 seconds faster than the boys did over the same distance for the last 600 metres. And we know she's good enough to be a weight for age winner. Like, already, it's hard to say you can set a horse for a Cox Plate in, because Anamo's at the top of that market. He'll be retired by then, but at least he's at the top of the market. But her and Legato are in the fight. They've beaten weight for age horses. They've beaten the boys and the Australian guineas. If they were Australian horses, they'd be hyped off the face of the earth. And it's so cool we have them here. You're right with Rich Hill. 2 Prowess, more Prowess just keep turning up every week. It's just a bizarre renaissance for a horse who...
He was like a New Zealand best-kept secret, and I feel like that secret's out. He's now established himself as a Southern Hemisphere force. The
secret's going to go from, I think, 17.5 for Prowess this breeding season. He has to go to 50. They could go higher. Like they'll be... The pressure from overseas buyers wanting to buy the horse, even though he's 14, will be enormous. But we've spoken a lot about Prowess over the last couple of weeks. For Roger and for Robert, because Robert has been running this ship back here, they deserve a great horse, because they had a really good horse last year in Pinarello, so they won a $1 million race last year. But what they did for that Cyclone Gabrielle fund to give back to the community, people know about that, and the feel-good toward this horse is huge, partly because of that. The owner, who we'd had on the radio on Saturday morning, really interesting, doesn't want to breed from Prowess.
Yeah, that's insane. So, but I guess each to their own, likes and enjoys racing.
Exactly. So she'll be for sale at some stage at the end of her racing career. I hope that's not for 2 or 3 seasons. I hope the Legatos, like Levante, and I hope Imperatriz, who are about to see, I hope they stick around, because this is, along with Sharp and Smart and some of the boys we'll talk about later,
a vintage crop of
3-year-olds. It's
three-year-olds,
a golden era.
Yeah,
and New Zealand racing needs it. Ellersly's closed at the moment. We need something fun. And we got a lot of fun
looking
at the
very
moment.
Fun. Yeah, it most definitely is. Well, we've spoke about Prowess and her victory in the Group 1 Vinery Stud Stakes, but on Friday night, Imperatriz got her first Australian Group 1 win. Let's have a little look at that.
Then came in the Congo, and Bella Nipotina to the outside in the straight. Babylon Berlin has been grabbed by Imperatriz. Bella Nipotina coming at it. Imperatriz, 3/4 of a length in front. The Kiwi and Opie. It's Imperatriz wins it from Bella Nipotina. Rockin' Horse third. For fourth, a photo out wide, a Case of You, and also...
A very satisfying win for Imperatriz, and she established herself with the sprinters in Australia picking up that Group 1 win. Opie Bosson joins us on the phone, and And Opie, I know you were super satisfied after that victory on Saturday. She really is a special mare, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. She's one of the best I've ridden, sprinters anyway. But no, it's just good to get the Group 1 win for her in Australia.
Talk me through the race, because it was messy, wasn't it? There was a lot of speed early. How did it unfold for you?
It was a little bit messy early. There was a little bit of interference in front of me with Nashua Willer. He went in and squeezed a couple up, but I ended up getting onto his back, and I actually got an uninterrupted run the whole way. And it's not an easy track to ride, Mary Valley, so I managed to track into the race quite nicely, and I got into a little bit of trouble turning in when I rolled in on one that got suspended, but no, she done the rest for me.
And when Bella Nipotina sort of came up to you, she looked like she kicked again.
She did, yeah. She heard her come in and pinned her ears back and had another crack.
Congratulations, Ope. We saw the fist pump at the line. Was that because you knew you got it right, because you had to ride it perfectly to win, or was that also because it's so cool to be back on the big Australian stage after not having ridden a lot there for the last 3 years?
Yeah, it's a bit of both, really. It's awesome to get back to Australia and ride in those big races, and to pull one off is, even better, satisfying.
Mate, she had her issues during the spring. Mark Walker's told us they were back issues. Was it that or the heavy tracks that we weren't seeing the best of her? Because since she's come back around about Christmas time, she's been indestructible. Yeah,
she's feels a lot freer in her action nowadays. But I think the heavy tracks did get to her in the spring. But Mark's worked her out now, and he's doing an amazing job with her.
Mate, you also rode Campionessa in the Australian Cup at Flemington on Saturday. You couldn't have ridden her any better, and she presented to be a chance around about the 300. Did she have every chance, or was she just slightly not good enough on the day?
Yeah, she had a beautiful run. We got out at the right time, and I really thought we were going to be right in it, and she just didn't quite round it off that last 50. But to her credit, she's come a long way in the last 6 months, and she's up to winning a decent race over there in Australia.
Opie, for you personally, on Friday night, you went to 91 Group 1 wins. We heard from Bruce on Saturday that's 11 in Australia now, and that took you past Roy Higgins and Glenn Boss. What did that mean for you?
Yeah, when Bruce was telling me that, it's actually quite unreal, really, when you see some of those big names in front that I've passed, and I just hope I get to the 100 and then see how I'm going, and maybe get to the 104, beat or equal Jimmy Cassidy.
All right, you got 11 days or 11 meetings, Opie, for a squeeze on the bend, but you can still ride Trobriand in the size produce at Awapuni this week. When was the last time you sat on him, and what can we expect from him after he was allowed to miss the Sistema?
I rode him at Taupo Trials the other day, and he's actually strengthened up. He's got a bit more thicker in the neck, and he felt great. He won his trial quite easily, and the blinkers will go on for the race day, and he'll be a different horse. But I'm very happy with him.
Mate, that noise in the background, I take it that was...
what have you done with the kids? Have you locked them up or something?
We're just a very worried co-host here. Is everybody fine there? We haven't heard from Max. Is everybody okay, Opie, while you're doing television? Well, your whole family's doing television, actually.
Yeah, well, Max is doing some colouring in, and Emma's... Bonnie's playing with a hammer and some pliers.
Oh, it sounds great. Sounds like you've got it under control. That is parenting. That's fine.
You better get home. Goodbye.
I think I should. Next break, I'm out of here. No. Opie, well done on Friday. Great win, and good luck for the rest of the morning. You're going to need it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.
Pliers and a hammer, seriously?
Just for people who, because obviously you were in Melbourne on the weekend, people who think that it's all fun and glamour and games, Em watched the race on a phone in a cab or with a driver, because you were flying in there to work for Channel 7,
yeah.
And you didn't actually go to the Valley.
No, I didn't. I was a badly thought out thing, really. I was on a 6 p.m. flight from New Zealand, so yeah, I was in the cab, shouted Paul Raj's ear off in the cab. He was very excited. He had $1 on Imperatrice.
Wow.
And then let me tell
Killing
you,
it.
can I tell you what happened on Saturday night. We flew home, 11:30 p.m. flight.
So people think you go to Aussie and it's all glamorous and you go out for these big dinners
We're
and
up
eat
in the
oysters.
casino eating sushi.
Didn't have a drink.
No, didn't have a drink. And Opie upgraded his flight.
And you didn't?
No, I was down. I was 37D and he was 1A.
What a man.
That's what 91 Group
Next
1
time you
wins
get married,
do
you'll
for
get it right. Just on that, you must be incredibly proud because, let's be honest, 2 years ago I was in the jockey's room at Trentham and Opie said, I'm done. I'm stuffed. His weight was really getting to him and he was buggered. And he seems to have really had a renaissance in the last 2 years. And obviously, you must be feeding him the right stuff.
Thank you very much.
But you must be incredibly proud of how he's fought back from that because he was pretty close to giving up.
Yeah, I mean, his weight is an ongoing battle. He manages that throughout the year, 12 months of the year, but just seems to be in a really good groove and really motivated. He's as fit as he'd ever been, I think, keeping him busy, and he's just really enjoying it. So it's going great.
She's,
yeah,
a hell of a horse.
Hell of a horse.
Yeah.
And opportunities are like being part of that coverage on Saturday, just listening to what they were talking for her. Everest's, you know, is the phone ringing for a slot holder? She'd be snapped up. Those are things that Kiwis could never be considered in a conversation with, but to have a genuine New Zealand trained horse, a potential for some of those races of that calibre is so exciting for the owners, for Te Akau, for New Zealand as a whole, like we spoke about with Prowess too.
And she's incredibly valuable. Like, we don't have many I Am Invincible mares in the country.
The most winning progeny of I Am Invincible as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is obviously Te Akau sell their mares, usually at public auction. So I hope she gets retained here, but gee, she'll be hard to retain. 5 times sprint winning, good 2-year-old, Group 1 winning 3-year-old, I Am Invincible mare. Like, that's just something we
the
just...
stuff of dreams.
Exactly, we don't have that sort of horse. So she...
And that's maybe not the end. There seems to be...
You'd expect it'd start with a 3, maybe a 4, the sort of number she's going to be worth at stud. Just on that, so obviously a wonderful weekend for New Zealand female horses. We have Sharp and Smart of the boys heading to the Derby this week. I ran a very informal and unscientific Twitter poll over the weekend just to say there'll be a bit of recency bias here because obviously the top 2 both won on the weekend. Who's our glamour girl? 600 votes is actually a lot of votes for a New Zealand racing poll. And Prowess just edges Imperatriz.
It's very tight, isn't it? I would say that people don't really know. Base 34 to 31.2 to 30.5.
The top 3 there, very even.
Horse of the year is just about going to break me.
Horse of the year could be won this week by Sharp and Smart if he wins the Derby.
Yes, true.
And he's got the Queen Elizabeth to go.
And the spring champion,
Poor old Levante's won 2 Group 1s and most years she'd be in the running. But all of those girls hopefully are going to race on next season. It's just wonderful for us. And as I said, the Derby this week with the boys to go, potentially the Queen Elizabeth, the Sharp and Smart. So before we finish, our last show for the season is on May 1st. We'll have a deep dive into what a wonderful crop of Horse of the Year contenders we have, because often Tokyo Tycoon would have been in the mix, but he might have 5 or 6 ahead of him.
Yeah. Great stuff. Let's move on to some success of Kiwi breds across the Tasman, because it was a good day for those as well, including this emerging stayer trained by Gay Waterhouse and Adrian Bott, who took out the Roy Higgins Classic, got a place in the Group 1 Melbourne Cup off the back of that. This is the progeny of Verdi, Goldman.
Solcombe down the centre of the track still has 6 to pick up, and then Allegron. So the front runner Goldman, 250 metres to go. Now called upon, still clear by 3 lengths to Swords Drawn. Solcombe and New Spirit. Goldman at the 150, 2.5 lengths Swords Drawn, Solcombe. But it's Goldman going great guns for Geordie Childs, an up-and-coming stayer. Goldman won it brilliantly. Solcombe in second. Third in the race was Swords Drawn.
Well, the excitement from Gay Waterhouse post this was palpable. She was absolutely pumped to have a runner in the Melbourne Cup. It's a win and you're in race over the 2,600 metres. And Goldman was relatively unexposed, Michael, in the build-up to this. He'd had 2 starts in Australia. He was unbeaten, but it was Warwick Farm as most recent start. This was a step up, and he really delivered.
What a remarkable story this is. So he is by a New Zealand stallion called Verdi, who, if you hadn't heard of, don't feel bad, most people haven't. So he was bred by the Monavale boys, the Smithies boys, and is a half by Zabeel to Sir Slick. Hasn't had a distinguished stallion career, so they bred this horse. Tony Pike took the training over, won his first start, had a couple of starts on the synthetic, went to Pukekohe, won a 65 on November the 19th. I've watched it 3 times and I'm like, well, was that the Melbourne Cup favourite? Somebody loved him, purchased for not...
Derby Racing loved him.
Exactly. Purchased for not extremely big money. Now he's favourite for the Melbourne Cup. Now, the Melbourne Cup market means absolutely nothing at the moment, but it doesn't matter if he even starts in the Melbourne Cup, and he can if he wants. Goldman can race for serious money every start for the rest of his life by little old Verdi. So well done to the Smithies boys.
He is a version of Zed, though, isn't he? He's by
exactly
Zabeel, and okay, he's relatively unexposed as a racehorse, but he's got the similar credentials. The interesting thing about him as well is the speed he has to put himself. He led and he set a good tempo and he was able to kick away. So that makes him really versatile when it comes to these staying events. And Gay can pick out, with being in the race already, she can pick out a path and really get there how she likes.
Verdi won 3 races in New Zealand. You were at Murray, Baker and Andrew Forsman's when he was racing there. Do you remember him at all?
I don't. I probably should, but I don't.
Well, I don't think you should. No,
I don't.
No one else remembers him either.
No, poor Verdi.
Well, they
will now.
They will now. So well done, Verdi. Z number 2. But yeah, a remarkable story and favourite for the Melbourne Cup.
Exciting stuff. Not an Option was also back in the winners' enclosure on Saturday. He'd been running some good races of late, and he got himself a tidy victory in race 8 at Flemington.
Still there. Then came Milton Park, who needs an out. Not an Option's presenting down the middle. Then Riddle Me That, El Rocco, and Pinstriped is the widest and starting to wind up. Still 4 off them. Daytona Bay grabbed by Not an Option at the clock tower from Cardinal Gem. Then Pinstriped, Riddle Me That, Not an Option. 100 metres to go. Draws clear about a length and a half. Cardinal Gem Pinstriped and Not an Option. Not an Option's won it from Cardinal Gem Pinstriped. Head bob a 4th. Daytona Bay prominent with Riddle Me That, then Milton Park.
He'd ran a couple of really nice races, Not an Option, but was flying relatively under the radar. But good to see the Cambridge stud colours of Brendan and Joe Lindsay picking up a Saturday success.
He won this day last year too, but look, obviously everybody knows he was purchased as a potential stallion after winning the Wellesley as a 2-year-old, but sometimes these things don't work out. He's not the first horse in the world it's not going to work out for. He's a very good Saturday horse, and he'll probably get a Group 3 somewhere along the line. So they can just enjoy racing him now without that pressure of trying to make him something he's not, because obviously these days he's a gelding. But it seems like almost every week there's a Cambridge stud-owned success in Australia. So this one, as I said, now he's just a fun horse, or as some people call them, sport horses. They can enjoy them for what they are.
In recent years, the Tullic Stakes has been a great lead-up in preparation for the Derby, and was New Zealand's success because it was taken up by Tapple Doodle Doo by that wonder sire in Prowess.
As they go inside the 350, leader's gone. Major Bill takes the lead from Awesome John. Oh, Stroke of Luck's in a bad traffic jam. Tapple Doodle Doo coming down the outside. Major Bill being tackled by Awesome John. Tapple Doodle Doo, Stroke of Luck still fighting for ground. 3 of them in it now. Tapple Doodle Doo moved up on the outside. Tapple Doodle Doo from Major Bill. Tapple Doodle Doo's won the Tullic. Just beat Major Bill. Then came Awesome John. Full of Sincerity late from 80 grand. Stroke of Luck.
Well, it was a really good win by Tapple Doodle Doo. Michael, since 2017, the Tullic Stakes has produced the winner or place getter of the Derby, and in the past 2 years, it has produced the Quinella. So potentially we might have seen the AJC Derby winner from this race. Tapple Doodle Doo was very good with a real Kiwi flavour.
Yeah. Well done to the Taplins. It's an awfully hard thing to move to another country, particularly from way down south, where the racing isn't that strong. So they've gone to the Sunshine Coast and they've found themselves with a couple of really good horses, and this is no small deal, winning group racing in Sydney. So well done to them. It's a wonderful thing to have a horse who can race in the Derby. I don't think the Derby winner was in that field, not because I take your point about the stats, but they went the same time, more or less, as Prowess, but came home 2 seconds slower, as we said. And Sharp and Smart, Andalus and Mark Twain are still going to turn up. So add that to the Australians like Manzoish, who's won a Victoria Derby, Pericles, who James will ride. This is an awfully strong Derby compared with that lead-up race. Sharp and Smart, by the way, arrived at Randwick yesterday. I was talking to Lance Noble on the phone and he said, oh look, Sharp and Smart's getting off the truck, and we kept on talking, and then he said, oh God, he said, he just looks amazing. So I'll be honest, I don't often tip horses at 450s and derbies. He won't pay 450 on Saturday. There's absolutely no chance he'll pay 450 on Saturday. Huey Bowman to do the riding on Sharp and Smart as we look to continue this wonderful Kiwi autumn.
Yeah, exactly right. It was Björn Baker who took the honours in the Group 1 Tankard Stakes with Arafo, who was very impressive and very tough, winning over the 2400.
Challenge of King Frankel, Knight's Order lifting from King Frankel, 2 lengths away to Sir Lucan, Arapaho running on, and then came Montefilia, still 3 off them. King Frankel, Knight's Order, Arapaho chiming in, and Montefilia is well wide out. Arapaho moved up to King Frankel, Arapaho, King Frankel, Montefilia stretching late, Arapaho just in front, and Arapaho won the Tankard just from Montefilia. Third between Vow and Declare and King Frankel, and Cleveland whizzing home.
Would have been a while between drinks for Björn Baker at Group 1 level. I think Samadout was his most recent Group 1 winner prior to this, and a really good win for Rachel King and Björn. And if you saw that video on Twitter of Björn celebrating, just about need to wear a helmet and some bodywear with his celebration. He certainly enjoyed the win.
Isn't he a beauty? This one's by Lope de Vega, ran 11th in the Melbourne Cup, and another one purchased out of Europe, and they come over here and week in, week out in Sydney. They have good staying races, and week in, week out they're won by former European horses or New Zealand horses. So you can see why people pay such big money for them. Lovely ride by Rachel King as well there. But yep, he has plenty of options because clearly he's a good stayer who can go from 3-2 probably back down to 2,000. Just one, by the way, we've got to mention Full of Sincerity before too. My apologies for that. Really strong 4th on the Tullic. He heads to the Derby as well. So talking about Bakers and Forsmans and all those sort of people, I thought Full of Sincerity was pretty good.
Yeah, it was a good run, an eye-catching run in the Tullic Stakes. A break for us on way in on the back of that. It's our New Zealand action from Tauranga and Riccarton.
Today's weigh-in is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
It's your weekly fix of You Weigh In, and this week's winner of the $100 bonus bet is Michael Greck. I hope I've said your surname correctly, and surely the New Zealand racing hero this week has to be Prowess. Well, we agree with you, Michael. Amazing to see a New Zealand stallion producing another Group 1 winner. What a hero now, and a future stallion hero. If you want to be in to win a $100 bonus bet, check out the bottom of the screen here, and you can enter, nominate your hero, and be in to win.
Talking about Prowess here, obviously Rich Hill are having an amazing time. Couple of Group 1 winners for shocking. Satano Aladdin's now on the board. Just on Satano Aladdin. Now, news came out yesterday, Penny Wicker, who he sired, who won the New Zealand Oaks 9 days ago. She, once it was confirmed Prowess is not going to the Oaks, she'll be going to the ATC Oaks. So Penny Wicker to cross the Tasman next Sunday for Jim Wallace. Jim hasn't been to Australia training horses for a long time. The Penny Wicker team will go. They'll pay a $22,000 late entry fee. But there's 70 owners, so it's only $300 each.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
And they've secured Damien Lane for the Oaks. So, yes, Prowess misses the Oaks. Obviously, we're going to have 2 options in there now, 2 very good fillies, because Polygon was good the other day too. But Penny Wicker confirmed going to the Oaks, Damien Lane, and what an exciting time for the Wicker syndicates and for Jim Wallace and the family. So really cool to see them heading to the Oaks as our replacement for Prowess, and she's gone straight into the market. In Australia, they opened her $11 yesterday once the news came out. She's now $4.
Ooh.
So she is another addition to not only the wonderful autumn summer for Rich Hill, but another addition to potentially our wonderful autumn on the Australian major racetracks.
To Tauranga now, where we do have a look at Brando, who took his place in the Japan Trophy. He's in a really good groove, and he got the win.
Giving them all a head start on the corner. Homeward bound they are, 3:50 to go. Maroney ranged up along the inside. Our Alley Cat packing Rockstar. Brando's coming after them solidly. True enough battles away, then Vernon Me not in it. Perfect scenario. Brando is though. Brando in front at the 100 metres. Put a length and a half on Maroney. Running on late Gino Severini, but Brando, the real Brando, steps up today. Second Maroney, third at the line was Gino Severini. Then we've got the packing Rockstar or the late finishing Perfect Scenario.
When he's good, he is very good. Brando gets the win and takes out the Japan Trophy at Tauranga on Saturday, and he seems to be in a good groove, Michael, and I know it takes a little bit of working him out, but he's racing well.
He's won 3 of his last 4. The problem for Brando now is he went into this race, isn't he a beauty? 500,000 from Riversley Park as a ready-to-run horse. You can see why they paid that for him. But he's a rating 99 going into that race. He's got to get 3 or 4 points. So you're well into the hundreds. And virtually every race he can be set for in this country before the tracks get heavy is a handicap. So I've looked all through the programs to try and find him a suitable race. Easter handicap's the obvious, but it's a handicap, and therefore you may not be top weight, you'll be pretty darn close. And you're starting to carry 59s, and yeah, he's in a sticky place in his career now, Brando, so wouldn't be surprised if maybe, even though he's racing well, that's the end of him until next season, because I just don't think there's a race, unless they extend to 2,000. There's a couple of weight for age 2,000 metre races, but yeah, they're going to need to find something for him, otherwise he's going to cop a stack of weight.
Next horse that we look at is a rising star, potentially. It's the Cody Cole trained in Ecstasy, who extended an unbeaten record.
Further back then to Happy Ego in Ecstasy out into the centre. Looks to run on now from Rockanono and Luxuriant. Midnight Special in front at the 250. Here comes in Ecstasy out after strongly now. Also Candy Cane out of the pack and wider out. We've got Luxuriant and Inquisitive, but it's in Ecstasy in front, wanting to lay around a bit, but in Ecstasy will just hold on. From the late charging Luxuriant, third over and running out of room just short of the line.
Relatively unexposed is in Ecstasy, but adds to the unbeaten record. Michael does it pretty easily.
Yeah, looked really good last year, won on debut, so it's now 2 from 2, but had a year break between races for a 1 leg injury, then stood on the shoe. Promising horse, but also I want to point out Cody Cole. Like, he's just training so well. His strike rate is fantastic. As a punter, now when I see Cody Cole's name next to a horse, I'm like, I better look at this again. I better look at these videos. He's doing a super job. Now, he doesn't have a whole bunch of really expensive yearlings to play with, but he is very much, well, already respected, a trainer on the move. I think it's not too far away before Cody gets a good horse and we start talking about him a lot more.
We head to Riccarton next, and we have a little look at the South Island Thoroughbred Breeders' Stakes. Live Drama picked up another very deserving stakes victory.
Presented Miss Ella 2 lengths away, and then Elizabeth Rose. It's Live Drama. He's gone for the doctor on the favourite. Leads by 3 from Eva Quinella. Burgee runs on from Elizabeth Rose, and then came Miss Ella. It's the Robinson pair at the 150. Live Drama. She leads by 3 from Eva Quinella. Burgee late. Live Drama holding them off though, and Live Drama. She'll take the Breeders. Live Drama beat Burgee and Eva Quinella. Elizabeth Rose for 4th. Then came Divine Sava from Namibia Miss and Fedekern.
It was even time for a celebration on the line as Live Drama gets a second black type victory. And Michael's really suited to those set weights and penalties conditions in this.
Yeah, I had a talk to Lance Robinson, who obviously trains the horse and trained the third horse and part owns it with his wife Christine, about what to do next, and he doesn't know. Now, they have a couple of options. One of them is extend to 2,000 metres for the Canterbury Gold Cup, but he's not sure she'll cop the 2,000 metres. Here's the other radical one. We mentioned on the show last week that the Group 1 Thoroughbred Breeders at Pukekohe this year in 12 days' time isn't going to be super strong. Of the top 12 mares in the country, and I'm pretty sure that Campionessa won't come back for it, the top 12 mares in the country aren't going to start in it, as best I can work out. I said to Lance, would you consider it? He said, look, maybe we'll chuck it on the float. We don't really want to travel too much, but maybe send it to Peter and Dawn Williams. They can look after the horse, and potentially it's the best chance Live Drama's going to have to get a Group 1 placing in her life in. Because, as I said, top 12 aren't there. So that could be in the offing for her, as it could be for many mares who weren't looking to go there. We heard about Pearl of Alsace, who last week they were saying would be going to the paddock. Confirmed subsequently she'll be heading to Pukekohe if things hold together well. So maybe Lance Robinson's colours, which aren't colours we see at Pukekohe or anywhere in the North Island very often, could make a sneak mission up here, because she's in form, she'll handle 1,600, and weight for age actually suits her with her place in the rating. So that would be a pretty big deal for Lance and Christine. I hope they make it north.
The Horata Gold Cup is the next race that we touch on. Second Thought was the winner of this one, the 7th on the card.
So into it 3 deep, 4 off them. Second Thought travelling all right, and to the outside the Growler and Capo dell'Impero. It's still the Buffer and Bully Boy, nothing in it. Our Echo, Second Thought give chase. 4 lengths away, Capo dell'Impero as Second Thought swept up to Bully Boy. Our Echo trying to go with those. Bully Boy, Second Thought and Our Echo. Second Thought wide out. Bully Boy is brave. Bully Boy, Second Thought stride for stride as they come to the wire. Second Thought wanted to head to Bully Boy. Our Echo runs third from the Growler.
Second Thought has been racing pretty well of late, but was dropping back in distance, Michael, to the 1800 and did deliver, but Bully Boy pushed it right to the wire.
Yeah, Bully Boy was outstanding, but this winner is incredibly versatile. 2,400 metres back to 1,800, trained by Kennedy and Furlong, so they've done a super job to drop back. And look, Joe Cameroon is riding in a great vein of form. We mentioned last week on the show many of the leading jockeys weren't available. Well, Joe was, and he took advantage of that. Second Thought, if you're a South Island horse, and it was a double, feature race double on the day for Ghibellines, if you're a South Island horse who's competitive at 2,000 metres or around that, there's races every week. She only rated 79 before that win, so shouldn't be too harshly handicapped. There's quite a few horses in the 90s in the South Island who will keep her well enough placed in the handicaps. But yeah, this is a horse who could race over any sort of trip, one would think, could even potentially be a New Zealand Cup horse. But Ghibellines, a sire we don't hear a lot about, but keeps leaving good horses. Just on Joe, that takes Joe to 43 for the season on the Apprentice Jockeys Premiership. Now, Kelsey Hannon is injured. She has another doctor's appointment next week to see when she can come back. So she's still a fair way away from coming back. Taylor Mitchell, so Kelsey's 49. Taylor Mitchell's 46, and she still has a couple of weeks of suspension to go. And Joe's on 43. So Joe has a real opportunity to press forward here and try and catch up to the girls and maybe even sneak a lead in that Apprentice Jockeys Premiership, which, as you would know, being around lots of apprentice jockeys in your life, it means a lot to them. It's a hell of a big deal. So, yeah, Joe's riding really well, and I can see him maybe in 3 weeks' time, he might be in front on that premiership.
Race number 6 is the next one we look at from Riccarton. Eminon was the winner of this one, trained by Lionel Dobbs.
They come for home. At the 500 metres, Optimum leads at a half summer festival, 2 away to Eminon. Tyler 8, 6 off them wider running on. Burnview back to the rail, then deals done Lord Darcy. Leader Optimum. Summer festival a half length away. Then Eminon from Burnview. Tyler 8 still 5 off them as Optimum leads Summer Festival. Burnview and Eminon. Lord Darcy behind those. Optimum in front. Summer Festival and Eminon coming with Burnview. Line of 4. Here we go. Eminon. Eminon the outside, I think, and nose or a half head to Burnview. Third Summer Festival from Optimum. Then Tyler 8 from Sirius.
Well, kept coming all the way to the line to pick up a victory by a narrow margin over the 1400. And Michael just told me that this is the most surprising horse in the country, and we're just about to find out why.
I don't know that I didn't know this, but Eminon is a half-sister to Legato.
Oh.
So Eminon is racing in good races, admittedly, at Riccarton, but when you think what she's worth, she's a Burgundy, a good horse, obviously in her own right, half to Legato. Now, the mare's had absolutely no luck. She left a horse called Locally Sourced, who was a really good handicapper, had a whole bunch of horses miss or slipped or things just didn't go right for them, then left Eminon, and then all of a sudden Legato's turned up. Now, you think if you're a stud master in Australia who wants to stand a new stallion and you're thinking, I can buy a good racehorse who's a half by Burgundy, who's a good horse, to Legato. Eminon, probably 6 months ago, was worth about 1/10 of what she's worth now. So, and she does have, black type would help. She does have a couple of black type options, the Great Easter Stakes and the Easter Cup coming up in the south. She gets some black type, they'll be flat keeping her in New Zealand. She's worth a sack of money.
Yes, she is. We're going to get you to a break on weigh-in where we leave you with a replay of the Masterton Cup.
Lily Laguna and the insiders, Springsteen, as they swing and go here. And Barrett's with Love Letter over on the outside. And then we've got kicking on in behind these runners then is Pinion. All of looking to thread the needle and white out Lily Laguna. Maho is right down the outside. Love Letter still kicking. Love Letter, Pinion's after it over on the outside. Pinion coming after Love Letter. And Pinion on the line will beat Love Letter.
Shut up, don't wanna hear it, yeah.
Today's weigh-in is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
These two turn for home 1-2. They're side by side with 3/16 of a mile to run. And from the back of the pack, here comes Ushba Tesoro with a rush on the far outside. Algiers to catch. Ushba Tesoro gains in, goes by. Ushba Tesoro hits the front. Ushba Tesoro wins the Dubai World Cup for Japan. Algiers and Emblem Road were in a photo second and third, but it's Ushba Tesoro's Dubai World Cup.
Ushba Tesoro takes out the Dubai World Cup, and when the Japanese horses travel anywhere, Michael, they are incredibly hard to beat. It was good to see the astrologist finish a very close second in the sprint as well.
Yeah, he finished second in the Old Quaz, so he's off to Ascot, where there's going to be at least 4 or 5 Australian horses heading to Ascot. I feel almost sorry for Ushba Tesoro because he was so brave there winning the Dubai Cup, and after the meeting nobody was talking about him because everybody was talking about Equinox, who won the turf race over the 2400 metre race. If you haven't seen Equinox, just Google Dubai World Cup night and you'll see him because, man, oh God.
Beast.
It was,
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, let's hope he doesn't turn up anywhere in Australasia near us anytime soon, but he was fantastic. The Japanese had a massive, massive night, which comes from 30 or 40 years of buying some of the best stallions and some of the best mares in the world. But yeah, Equinox was just breathtaking.
Speaking of international travel, there's a little Kiwi who is on the move, and Aegon is heading across to Hong Kong to contest in one of the feature Hong Kong races shortly.
Champions Mile on April the 30th, so he'll be up against more than likely Golden 60. And look, this is him 4th in a different Champions Mile at Flemington on the 5th, and the horses that beat him here are obviously the serious big boppers of mile racing. So Andrew Forsman said, look, the owners are keen to go. The Doncaster's going to be a big field. That was our other option. It's good to have a horse going to Hong Kong, and we're going to have a crack. It could well be a small field.
Yeah, so, and you've got a gelding, so if you get an opportunity to travel and you're invited to these things, you might as well take it up and enjoy the ride.
It's good business.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Aegon, April the 30th. That'll be the day before our last show, actually. So hopefully we can go with another Kiwi success, but he will be up against Golden 60. It's a pretty special night. Just on Hong Kong, Jamie Richards up to 20 for the season.
He said to us in that interview that we played around the Karaka sales time that 20 was his goal for the season. So he's done that.
He's got there, yeah.
A bit to go.
Yeah, and he's really getting reckoned. When you talk to people behind the scenes in Hong Kong, they're talking that the major owners are now talking about Jamie Richards. So well done to Jamie and to Danielle.
Yeah, speaking of Hong Kong, we're a bit slow on the uptake with this one, but the Queen's Silver Jubilee Cup, this was Lucky Swayness winning that, and Michael, of course, the New Zealand bred.
Yeah, of course, by Navara Park's Swayness. So we're looking at the horse outside the leader. We actually had to, unfortunately, drop him from the show last week because we had so much going on, but no disrespect to him, he's enormously highly rated worldwide now, and just a wonderful horse. So congratulations to Navara Park, Swayness making a name for himself, and we're hoping to have a profile on Swayness and find out more about Navara Park before we finish up for the year in about a month's time. But yeah, wonderful win there. Kiwi win, of course, was James also rode the horse.
I guess big news during the week was around strategic partnering and the TAB. And Michael, there's no better man to talk to you than you with regards to what's going on. So that's obviously big news. What can you tell us about what it all means? OK, so last week the board of the TAB were officially given 3 offers from overseas betting agencies. They're not naming them, but I'm going to. One's Entain, which is the parent company of Ladbrokes. The other one's Sportsbet, and Tabcorp, which is the Australian TAB. So what I'm hearing is, and this is again not confirmed by the TAB, but our research behind the scenes, is that Entain have been given preferred bidder status. What happens when you're a preferred bidder is they're allowed to look at your books, you look at, everybody gets together and says, well, what does all this mean? So the financials come into play. Now, they then bring an investment bank on, based in Sydney, to make sure that the numbers and the forecast are actually real. You know, because people make these promises, we can make you this much money, we can pay you this much money, but you need someone who's an expert in figures to deal with that. So if a deal is signed, and this is the crucial part, this is not being taken to the Minister. Kieran McAnulty, who is the Minister for Racing, has to approve any deal.
Any deal the TAB signs with an overseas partner has to be approved by him. So that has not happened. That could happen this week, but it's still a long process, financials and lawyers to be involved. If it does happen, what it will mean is no job losses in the first 12 months are guaranteed. And these days, not many people are guaranteed a job past 12 months anyway. They're not going to come in here and fire a bunch of people. They're going to try and come in here, streamline some processes and make more money and more returns to the industry. How quick could that be? I am hearing in the first quarter of next financial year, which for racing begins August the 1st, there could be, for want of a better term, because I don't like using big corporate terms, a signing on bonus or a sweetener to say, hey, and that money could come back to the industry very quickly. So this is a very real thing now for the first time in, very real, and that heavy due diligence now starts. But again, the Minister will be in charge of whether this gets signed off. Importantly, what does that mean for the New Zealand punter? I think for day-to-day punters it isn't going to matter much. The most crucial part is making sure things like Punters Promise, where people are allowed to bet to win $2,000 in New Zealand, is maintained. I believe, from what I've researched, that a minimum bet law similar to Australia, where you have to, as a bookmaker, allow punters to win a certain amount, will be part of the deal. I employ the Minister to make sure that our Punters Promise limits are kept. If someone wants a monopoly in this country, which they could get if the borders are closed next year to gambling from offshore, they've got to pay for it. And we don't have that many winning punters. We don't have any arbor punters or professional punters in the country who are going to take advantage of this. I think it's crucial, and the Minister, when I spoke to him last week, has said he is very aware of that, and that is going to be part of his decision-making process. So let's not panic. I think most punters it won't affect, but I think even for winning punters, the Minister is on their side, and the TAB aren't looking to sell the farm down the road. There will still be a TAB as a statutory body in New Zealand, and they will still be responsible for distributing money to the codes and to the sporting bodies in. But I think we're very close, inside a couple of months, to a deal potentially being done if the Minister believes it's in the best interests of New Zealand racing and sport. Will it happen? I think so. We were talking about geo-blocking earlier in the season, so that is something that would still happen the two things are separate. The geo-blocking would have to be handled by the Department of Internal Affairs, and then a select committee would have to talk it over, and then it would need to be passed in the House. It's legislative change. That won't happen before the election. Now, but these deals aren't contingent on that. These overseas agencies aren't saying you must geo-block or we pull out of the deal. They're not contingent. But I do think geo-blocking is very much on the cards, but it's a separate story, and we on the show will treat them as separate issues. And just before we go, Michael, Mike Todd, I know, is potentially coming on the show? He's been really open and as transparent as he can be for someone who's had to sign non-disclosure agreements, because this is heavy commercial stuff. But yes, we are hoping to have him on the show, potentially, on April the 17th for an extensive interview, and we can talk to him about what this will mean for the people at home. So we're on top of this for you. I realise it's really tricky stuff, but for the general punter watching this isn't going to affect your opportunity to have a bet. For the racing industry, I would suggest a deal being signed will have immediate effect. Well, that's all we've got time for here on Weigh In this morning. A wonderful weekend for the Kiwis. We'll be back next week to do the same again.